Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Strange happenings at 4 a.m. I heard a song in my headphones late last night around 4 a.m. It was a really shitty pop song that I would never listen to, but I heard it earlier yesterday in a restaurant. I looked at my open tabs, and nothing was playing. I checked my programs, and same thing. I then attempted to mute my computer, and the music just kept playing. When I took the headphones off, I could still hear the music, but it was not as loud. With the headphones on, it was crystal clear, but low volume. I could hear every note and every lyric. The female's voice was the same. It sounded the same when I could barely remember it myself. I tried to stop thinking about it, but the song kept playing. It wasn't the whole song, just 2 verses of it that repeated. I rushed upstairs to bed and tried to sleep. The song went away for a few minutes, and then it started again. This time it was just 3 words of the first verse repeating over and over again, like a broken record. It was something like, "Ride with me." After a few minutes of this, I could have sworn I felt something brush my side. I ignored it as best I could and went to sleep. This morning, everything is back to normal. I've never experienced anything like this. What happened? Have I gone insane, or could a demon be trying to mess with me?
Friend was just found not guilty after the hardest year and a half of his life after defending his home from an invader. Backstory: take friend shooting for the first time. He takes interest in guns. I always take shotguns because birdshot is cheap and we don't dump 30-round mags at a time. 200 rounds lasts 2 or 3 of us most of the day, almost never finish off ammo. Eventually he starts buying ammo just so we can go shoot clays. He moves out of his parents and in with 2 other friends, first time away from home. Buy him a cheap-ass $240 Mossberg for his birthday to protect his new home and take shooting. Teach him everything I know of gun safety, storage, home defense, etc. for over a year. Someone breaks into his room, connects to backyard, at 4 a.m. while he's playing his Xbox. He shoots them with #1 buckshot at nearly point blank, 6 times. 5 of the times he fired, the guy was already on the ground. The DA charges him with manslaughter. I have to convince him 30 times, basically begging him not to accept a plea deal. 4 of us go a total of $7 grand out of pocket for the best legal defense lawyer in the area we can afford. That would take his case with what we could offer. He still owes him almost 20 grand. When he goes to trial, the lawyer tells him not to take a plea because the guy who broke in was armed with 3 pocket knives and a pry bar and had 11 felonies for home invasion, battery, and domestic violence. Yesterday afternoon, he's found not guilty by a jury of his peers of manslaughter and can't be found civilly liable under state law if found not guilty at a criminal trial. He's a free man. Justice came through for my boy.
I'm a delivery driver, and a couple months back I was dropping off in a pretty wealthy neighborhood at around 3 a.m. On the way back, I was driving with my window down when I heard this eerie music playing from one of the McMansions on the block. I turned the podcast I was listening to down and listened carefully. It was a maybe 10-second loop at most of some old 50s foreign-sounding, maybe Indian music, or reversed audio of an English song. It sounded like something from an old musical, either being played backwards or in a completely foreign language. It was a very short clip and ended kind of abruptly before replaying itself over and over. I sat for at least 25 minutes and listened to it, trying to figure out what it could be, while I waited for another delivery, and it didn't stop. I saw no signs of life in the house it was coming from. The lights seemed to be off everywhere except for the 2nd floor, but the blinds were partly open into the master bedroom and hallway area, and at no point did I see any movement in the house. I wanted to get out and record or see if I could Shazam the audio or something, but I didn't want to look more like a burglar than I already was sitting in front of this house in my car at 3 a.m. The best conclusion I could come up with at the time was that this is some sort of home security measure, but the eerie random nature of the audio just made no sense to me. I'm writing this now because it keeps popping into my head. I can hear this sound on repeat, and I can't think of any logical explanation as to why this was just playing on an infinite loop in a suburban neighborhood. It really gives me goosebumps, almost feels like a dream.
This happened to me 20 years ago. Be me. I used to sell shoes to small stores. I went to the stores with a small inventory of shoes in my car and sold it to the owner to resell. So this made me travel a lot through the whole country. I went with a friend because it was a really large trip. He knows something about mechanics. We did turns of 4 hours of driving. It was my turn to sleep. When my turn was about to finish, the car just stopped. We were worried because we were in the middle of nothing at 2 a.m. My friend checks my car. He says that my car is dead. We needed to go for help. To decide, we played rock, paper, or scissors. I won. He just screams, "Damn it," and decides to go to the south. There was the nearest station. I just go to sleep thinking that my friend will come in any second. I wake up. It's 4 a.m. and he isn't back. I begin to despair and try to start the car. After 3 minutes, I don't know how I made the car start. I just turn and go back. Like 4 kilometers later, I see a man still at the sideways of the road. While I get closer, I see that it is my friend. It's there, motionless, looking at the dark. I stop a few meters before and look in the same direction as he does. I just saw a giant black ball floating near my friend. I just froze looking at it. I take a little flashlight at the back and run directly to him. I tried to pull him, but he didn't move. It was like trying to pull a tree. I just heard a damn scream coming out of the ball. I ran to the car. I just step on the accelerator. I runned over my friend. It helped cause he got out of the trance. Now he was unconscious on the floor. I just lifted him, put him in the car, and got the hell out of there. I went to the nearest clinic and the doctor said that my friend was dehydrated and undernourished. Obviously, the main thing was that he got 3 sprains.
You know, something similar happened to me once, and it was very late at night too. I was using my laptop on the sofa like at 3 a.m. maybe, and I wasn't wearing headphones or anything. Then suddenly I started to hear a music box playing. I was like, the hell, because we don't have any music boxes in the house. I checked my tabs and shit. I muted the volume on my laptop, and I looked around me, trying to find the source. It seemed like it was coming from the corner of the room, but there was literally nothing there, and what's even more weird is the fact that the music was clear, as if it were in front of me. It played for like 6 seconds, and then it stopped. What's funny is that this happened in a house where weird shit always happened. Like my sister's door would open by itself really early in the morning around 3 or 4 a.m., when she wasn't even in the room. Fuck that house.
Be me, B17. Small rural town, but not a redneck town. Friends and I decided to build a small cabin on father's private land. Not a big cabin just for partying and hunting. Maybe 18 by 24 feet. Forest is thick and has a reputation of evil to the local Native Americans. Build anyway. 3 friends, 3 days, easy peasy. Hold a party at said cabin. Party is not huge, only 7 of us. After the party, all of us crashed in the cabin. Except me. I don't really drink much, in charge of stalking fire and not letting them freeze to death. Hear crashing sound in the woods. Oh great, a large animal. Hear knock on door. LOL what? I see one of my friends outside the door. The same friend is also sleeping on a pull-out couch bed 4 feet away from me. He disappears. Literally all their lives are in my hands. I decided to grab my Lee Enfield and check it out. No visible tracks in the dirt. Load a 10-round mag. Put on a bayonet. Walk around the cabin. See him standing 50 yards or so away in the bush. Nope.jpg. Being the nice Canadian boy I am, I call out to him. Less of a call out and more of me yelling his name at the top of my lungs. Hear him yell back some slurred words from inside. Why me? Be 17 and a stupid firearm owner, so I warn the figure that looks like my friend and fire 2 shots at them. Like 2 people get up from inside and start getting mad at me. At the same time, like not even 5 seconds later, the wireless speaker inside blasts a song like out of nowhere. Wasn't me.png. Go back inside. None of them connected to the speaker except me. They all get mad at me seeing as it's 4 a.m. Go to turn my phone off. Phone's gone. Great, turn off the speaker. Go inside and sleep with the rifle next to me. No sleep for me. Drive home later that afternoon in 2 old Broncos. 5 miles out of camp, and I notice my phone in a plastic baggie hanging on a branch. Did not go that far from camp, neither did they. I pick it up and I see that figure. Got the hell back in the Bronco and got the fuck out of there. None of them saw it. All my friends think I'm crazy and refer to me as Spazzy Razzy. Saved their lives potentially, and this is what I get. Oh well. Went back several times and never had an incident. Fast forward 4 years. That friend that looked like that figure thing was killed in a car crash. Fuck drunk drivers. Seeing as we are a close group of friends, we go out to that cabin after his funeral to have one last party there in celebration of his life. Wasn't a party to get hammered, more of us telling stories of him and remembering him. Go out for piss, see the figure that looks like deceased friend. Not scared. Had a good feeling for some reason. Nod at him, he nods back. The feels. Start to cry. Never see him again. I like to think that last time it was his spirit and not the thing I saw that day. Fast forward 4 more years. Never felt safer near that cabin. Repainted it last week. Friends and I decided to name the road to the cabin and the cabin after him, Finn.
I go for night walks a few times every week between the hours of 2 to 4 a.m. I've been doing this for over a year at this point. My town is generally smaller, so there's not much happening at night. Since last summer, I've seen the same man wandering around town during my night walks. He usually comes around 3 or 4 a.m. There's also something incredibly strange and creepy about this guy. He's really big, at least 6'4" and over 300 pounds. And he looks to be in his 40s. He walks in an odd way, stilted. He takes one step forward with his arm half raised, freezes for a second, and takes the next step forward with the other arm raised. Seems robotic. He never stares straight forward. He's always got his head arched at unusual angles. At certain times, he'll have his entire head tilted completely backward and staring at the sky. Other times, he'll have his head completely tilted downward, staring at the ground, at the exact same time while doing the stilted walk. He legit looks like a zombie while doing this. At certain times, he'll just stop walking and freeze in his exact spot for minutes before continuing again. His walking seems completely aimless, he has no direction, and just wanders all around on streets and yards, etc. He appears to have zero sense of what's happening around him. I saw him walking on a road once, and he almost got hit by a semi-truck. He didn't even appear fazed and kept on walking like nothing happened. The thing is, I've seen this man everywhere on my nightly walks. It's weird. This man lurks around every part of my neighborhood. There's something really unnerving about him that makes my gut be like, get the fuck away. I've never actually walked up close to him or confronted him. The first few times I've seen him, it was easy to think he was drunk, but the more I see him, the more I'm convinced there's something a lot more serious going on. What the hell is up with this guy? What's his end game or purpose doing this?
I might believe in demons now. I've always been on the fence about them, but I might believe after what just happened to me. Be me 30 minutes ago. Be asleep. Wake up, have to piss. Irritated because this happens almost every night, I wake up at 3 or 4 a.m. needing to pee. Try to ignore it, but the piss won't wait. Make my way to the bathroom. There's a mirrored wall where the shower should be, but I don't even question it. Sit on the toilet. The mirror is just above eye level across from me. Worried that I'm dreaming and I don't want to piss the bed, so I stand up a little and look at myself. My face is completely black, and despite it being not completely dark, somehow think, yup, I'm not dreaming time to piss. Sit back down and start peeing, staring at the ceiling through the mirror. Thin strips of light like lead strips on the ceiling give off a little light. My bathroom does not have lead strips. Start to think it was a little weird that my face was black. The ceiling starts to stretch and distort, the lines extending. Become super dizzy, like vertigo. In the mirror, a figure like the Silence from Doctor, who but with a normal-sized head flies down and grabs me by the head and shoulders. Lifts me off the toilet and slams me into the mirror, choking me and pressing my head into it. At first I'm scared, I could only see the thing in the mirror and my hand was slapping against it. Become filled with a visceral rage. Think something along the lines, "Let's go, I will end you." Shove the thing off. In the mirror it flies off and tumbles into the dark. What came to mind was banished. The vertigo comes back, and I can't stand without holding the walls. Walk towards the door, holding onto the counter like a baby deer. For some reason, I think it's crucial that I flush the toilet. Behind me, I hear the creature land with a whoosh, but it's as if I could feel it coming. Drop into a fighting stance, feeling stable. Deliver a series of blows and blocks, some of which I feel connected. Feel it's gone. Return to trying to escape. The room is stretching, and the door is getting further away because of course it is. The vertigo is crazy, and I can barely walk, but I manage to leave the bathroom and make it back to my bed. Wake up. Realized I was dreaming this whole time, which makes sense all things considered. I still have to piss. Go back to the bathroom for real. It's totally normal. Piss out a tiny, really just a laughable amount of pee. Go back to bed again, thinking about what just happened. Think, take that, you fucking chud, try me again, cuck. The room is suddenly very cold. A spot next to the window seems darker than it should be. Humble myself and give a quick prayer of thanks. What do you guys think? It honestly felt like something was after me, and it was sulking that it didn't win. I've heard that it's dangerous to enter a mirror when dreaming because you'll get possessed before. And looking back, it seemed like this entity was trying to shove me into the mirror. I've never really believed in this stuff, but now I might.
Okay, so I have kept this to myself for a while because I don't believe spamming your story everywhere. And most social media is garbage anyways, but I'll get to the point. At this location in the summer of 2013, I was a senior in high school and partying with friends on the beach of Island Lake because my friend lived there. Me and two friends, Alexis and Joe, fake names to protect identity, were sitting in the bed of Joe's truck drunk but not completely inebriated, did not take any hallucinogens, and had all of our motor skills and senses. We were the only ones awake around 4 a.m. Eastern Time and noticed green lights maneuvering in the sky. A large green light and several small green lights surrounding it, entering and exiting the larger light. After all, green lights entered the green light and it faded from view. We all thought it was strange, but it could have been a flight show considering the many private airfields in the area. But nothing prepared us for the extremely low vibration sound that overcame everything. Neither one of us could hear each other from less than a foot away. We noticed the noise was the gravel road, vehicles and houses all vibrating against each other. The lights on the houses went off and our phones all died. Then over the tree line about 120 feet or 36 meters, a large silver triangle with 3 large lights and no cockpit comes over the house in front of Joe's truck. Me and Alexis both stared at it. It had no visual cockpit or glass and seemed like a full solid piece, the only difference being the extremely bright yellow lights coming from each point of the triangle. Also, this craft was way too low to be flying in a residential area, but I'm no expert in avionics. Joe couldn't bear to look as it went over us, and then went over the lake and slowly up into the air coincidentally in the direction of the lights we saw earlier. Afterwards, Joe kicked us both out of his truck and sped away, refusing to acknowledge what we saw. Me and Alexis still talk about it to this day.
Okay, first off, as an introductory, I haven't been on this site in maybe 2 years, and this is the only place I think I will get answers. 2 months ago, be in Texas in the woods with friends, about midnight on the nose, with 7 friends. Only 2 people other than me were sober. Go off into the trail down to the waterfront at the lake. Make them a fire and me with S and J, 2 other sober dudes. Hear some screaming down one of the trails at about 2. Sounded like maybe a teenage girl. Multiple stories of assaults and creepy dudes on these trails after dark, so we go running after it with flashlights. Felt like a 5-minute jog. Get to a small clearing where the trail ends and it widens out a bit. Screaming is deafening at this point, but it's coming from the center of the clearing and nothing is there. Hear something else sprinting in the woods. Pattern was like a dog running, but heavier and faster. Jay started screaming too and sprinted back the way we came. Me and S followed after breaking our shock lock. 15 minutes later, and we didn't realize how far we had gone. No internet either. so 911 wasn't an option. Jay stops dead in his tracks and starts crying. Never seen this guy cry even after his mom died. Me and S were off adrenaline at that point, so we were tired, but Jay was obviously hyped up by adrenaline or something. Look at the clock and it's 4 a.m. Get to the fire and it's still burning the way we left it. Dead birds are everywhere. By now we are horrified again and we sprint back up the trail. Find everyone we left back at the 2 cars and they're all just bullshitting like nothing happened. We asked them why they left. They all say we left them at the car and just walked into the woods and they just kept drinking at the cars. Me, Jay, and S are all terrified now and just nope the hell out with everyone and go home. Wake up with a pure feeling of dread. Went back the next morning. No fire marks at the pit, we built just a circle of stones, no dead birds. Walk all the way down to where the clearing was. Singular dead bird in the middle. We walk back to the cars and ask Jay why he freaked out, and he just stopped talking and didn't say a word on the way back home. Me and S agreed we felt shitty for him because we didn't see whatever the hell he did. We don't bring it up anymore because it shuts Jay down for some reason. Few days after we all started having really messed up nightmares. Waking up cold sweats and the whole bit. A week later, Jay got hit by another car and ran into a tree, totaling his car on a tree right by the entrance to the trails. About a week after that, me and S both got robbed at the entrance of the trails. Fast forward a month. Within the same week, my dad had a stroke and almost died. Jay's stepmom got diagnosed with lung cancer. S's sister got killed in a car crash. We agree shit got weird after that night, and Jay tells us he saw someone staring at him, and he thought it was his dead mom at the clearing. We all reconfirmed we were sober. We go back again and sit there all night in a tent. The sprinting was there again, and then we heard breathing outside the tent for like 5 minutes. Pure terror, and we were all silent. The screaming started and the sprinting followed again. Whatever the hell was out there was circling at the tree line all night. Don't sleep, get out in the morning and there is one dead bird at the door. Freaking out we leave and haven't gone back. That was 3 weeks ago, and yesterday I opened my door to get the mail, and there was a dead finch at my door.
I went to bed late last night, 4 a.m. or so, but I couldn't force myself to fall asleep. I looked up random things on the phone for some time until I got bored. Then I put the phone away and tried to fall asleep, but I still wasn't too sure about it. Sometime, though, I got into that state that's immediately before actual sleep, the one with random thoughts stuck into your head. And in that state, I started to hear voices very, very clearly. Some of them were the voices of family members, arguments, and other kinds of conversations. They were so clear, nothing like remembering them. After that, I started to feel afraid about the door being unlocked, and I tried to get up, but I couldn't. Also, the voices and arguments were localized in the room, and each of them came from a different place. I think I had my eyes open at this point. Some loud thump sounds were also present. At some point, I saw or dreamed of a silhouette near the curtains. It started coming towards the bed. It had the look of those invisible persons, sort of like Kevin Bacon in Hollow Man. It was speaking to me while coming towards the bed. I don't remember the words. It reached my bed and remained there on the floor in front of my legs and was still talking, but now it was more like a chanting, which I couldn't understand. It was the voice of a girl. I was losing my shit, and I tried to remember various prayers in my head, those I was taught in school, prayers to Virgin Mary, etc. And then I started to recite the Lord's Prayer, which I used to do in childhood. I couldn't remember all of it at first, but I managed to complete it in my mind. And then I woke up, but I didn't open my eyes as far as I remember. They were already open. It's just that the silhouette disappeared and I only saw the room. I went to the bathroom. I turned the lights on and went to sleep again. And then I had one of my usual nightmares, which I always have. Something about being followed by some Satan-like entity. Those never bother me, because I'm prone to having nightmares. I've had waking dreams before, but this one was the most complex one. It was also kinda strange that it was structures, kinda like a story with prayers and shit. Sorry for the wall of text. I just thought it was kinda strange. It was my first time sleeping alone in a month or so, I think. Also, after I woke up the first time, my eyes were on my roommate's laptop. I was sure I had closed its lid. I usually open it and close it again every night, because he always forgets to shut it down and it emits some annoying sounds. But now I thought its lid was open. I jumped out of the bed kinda scared and went there. It was just the backrest of the chair. And almost at that exact moment, my laptop on the table near the curtain turned itself on. It usually does this whenever I close the lid without shutting it down, but it's strange that it did it precisely then. I'm sane enough to know it was just a waking dream, but it was cool nonetheless.
So I'm lying in bed reading /x/stories to make myself afraid, because that feeling is amazing. Outside my door, I hear my parents' door open, and my dog walks out. We have tile floors, so I can hear his nails. This is pretty usual. He's getting old, so he can't control his bladder as easily. But enough about that. Here's where the interesting things start happening. Leave my room to say hi to my mom and to get water, 'cause I'm thirsty. My mom isn't out there. Check her room, see the mound under blankets, assume she's asleep. Oh well, go get water anyways. The dog is freaking out for some reason, trying to get me to go to the garage. 4 a.m., kinda scared. Screw that. Sorry dog, bro. Get water, head back to the room. Hear the bathroom door open from my parents' room. Suddenly remember parents are out for the night. I'm home, alone. My dog is a Shih Tzu, not big at all, and the door was completely closed, so it couldn't have been him. Freaking out. Just decide to go back to my room, open my door, and turn on my phone light so I can see the way to my bed. A shadow on the wall of a man, really distorted and rapidly changing. Might have just been my eyes messing with me, though. Was only there for a second. The dog is staring at that exact spot where the shadow was, and he's growling. Screw that. Grab a blanket and drive to my friend's house. I have his house key, so I lie down on his couch. What should I do? My friend will be chill with me being here. But when do I go home? Did I betray my dog bro by leaving him there? I really hope he's okay.
Go get your dog, you shithead. What if it has to pee?
About 30 minutes ago. It's around 4 a.m. I live by a local school, and I felt like getting out, so I took my board and skated on down there. Arrive at the intended destination, hop the fence to get in, and proceed to skate around and just kinda enjoy the early morning air. About 10 minutes in, I start feeling uneasy. I'm sitting on a bench near the playground when this weird smell washes over me. Smells sweet, but at the same time disgusting and thick. Like a combination of rotting fruit and something dead. All these are already red flags, but at the time I kinda just brush them off. I get up and go to walk over towards the water fountain, when all of a sudden something inside me starts freaking out. In my mind, I literally hear, "Run, we need to move now, get out of here." I instantly halt in my tracks, turn around and start walking back towards the fence to hop it and go home. When I was about halfway there, I start hearing dogs barking from the houses near the corner of the school, where the drinking fountain I was originally going to was. Continue walking, about 3/4 of the way there when I hear what I can only describe as some type of howl. I thought it was some type of machinery starting up at first, as the howl sounded kind of like the brakes on an old car rubbing together. As the sound continued, it started to change and sound more human, almost like someone clearing their throat with phlegm in it. I know that might not make sense, guys, but I'm sorry. That's honestly the best way I can describe it. Promptly proceed to shit my pants as I hear dogs barking more and more. Feeling of dread intensifies, and I haul ass up and over the fence and start running home. As I'm running, I start to hear a slight whistling that sounds like it's coming from up in the trees that surround the school. Whistling doesn't sound melodic, but more like the sound you hear when some type of object is traveling through the air at high speed. Ignore it and continue running home. When I'm about a block away from my house, I take a detour down a street that cuts off from the main road and curves around to meet my street in the middle. Halfway down the street, I smell that smell again. Start running. The feeling of dread is so strong I feel like I'm having a panic attack. Make it to my street without anything happening. walking down my street almost at my house when suddenly my own thoughts start screaming at me again. Not clear, danger, don't turn around, move now, get home fast. I hear all these thoughts at the same time, and the only thing I can think to do is turn around and check my surroundings. Behind me, halfway between the end of my street and me, I see something. There isn't any streetlights where this person or object is, and it is hidden in shadow. However, I can see the silhouette of it against the light coming from the street lamp, all the way at the end of the street. What is best described as a very fat person walking, with 2 dogs on a leash on either side of him. From where I'm at under the light, the thing can see me, but I can't see it. I walk faster home, and right before I'm about to open my door, I decide to wait behind my truck to see if I can get a look at this guy as he steps into the light. Just as it is about to step into the light, it stops. I hear that same howl again. It's coming from where that thing is. I should have ran right then, but I stayed and watched still. The silhouette from what I see looks like it's just jumping up and down. I'm sitting there like WTF? All of a sudden I see something enter the light of the street lamp. It arcs through the air and lands on the ground. I try to look closer at it and see. It's a dead, bloated cat. I stand there in disbelief, unsure of what to do. I start hearing that whistling sound again and the smell comes back. Run inside, lock doors, turn on lights. Now I'm sitting here nearly crying from panic. I'm sorry that this story is anticlimactic or whatever, but I didn't want to stick around any longer to investigate. Guys, I've never been this scared before. Please help me figure out what the hell just happened. This is my first time having anything remotely spooky happen to me. I'm lost.
GF and I visited New York City last year. British so hardly experience weird shit, like the following happening to us. Staying in shitty Airbnb in Harlem because it was cheap and fairly close to everything. First 2 weeks go off without a hitch, coming up to the last night before we fly back to the UK. Our room is in an apartment with 3 rooms, 2 of which are for guests and another for the person running things, but we were the only ones in that night. All rooms share a small kitchen space that opens directly to a main stairwell for the building, which then opens out onto a fairly prominent avenue. GF wakes up to a loud banging sound at pretty consistent intervals. After sitting wondering WTF was going on, she went to check the front door. Dumb horror movie trope number 1. That I know. Some dead-eyed lady stabbing the neighboring door in the stairwell with a tablespoon. GF asks what she's doing. Doing this, and continues to hit the door. GF slowly shuts the door and tries locking it, but can't because the flat is poorly maintained. Comes back to our room, by which point I'm half awake because of the noise. She fills me in, and we basically take all of the sharp objects we can find from the kitchen and lock ourselves into our bedroom. It's the only locked door between us and the mental case. Eventually, the noise goes away and the coast is clear, so fall asleep because it's 4 a.m. at this point. Next day I found out that the dead-eyed woman must have gotten the spoon from our kitchen since there was one missing, meaning she had no trouble getting in through the front door. Could have just as easily grabbed a knife and tried getting into our room. Check the stairwell. Neighbor's door is trashed with loads of indents from the spoon. Check our own front door, also trashed with spoon marks. Confused AF, but thankful deranged spoon lady wasn't feeling murderous that night. Is this just a thing that happens in America, cause of the state of their healthcare system? I swear shit like this rarely happens in the UK.
Birds have started to attack my home. I rather foolishly left out waste meat for birds to eat, and they have started to gather on my roof in large numbers, expecting more. In the past week, 3 birds have deliberately crashed into my windows, seemingly attempting to break in. Pebbles and rocks are being dropped from high up. I hear them rolling off my roof onto the floor. There have been 4 today alone. Get woken up at 4 a.m. to mass squawking outside my window. It sounds like a town meeting for crows. I now have an owl visiting nightly. Never seen one before in 20 years of living here. What's going on here /x/? I expect to be attacked when I go outside now.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes. midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.